Couples are spending huge amounts of money on lavish traditional weddings these days, but what if you wanted a wedding off the beaten path? Well, in a new book called The Offbeat Bride, Ariel Meadows-Stallings shares some of her stories and tips that she got from brides from all across the country and whose nuptials were anything but normal. My goodness. Welcome, Ariel.
Thank you.
You've got quite some stories coming up here. First of all, though, tell us what exactly is an offbeat bride?
You know, the way I try and explain to people how they can understand if they're an offbeat bride is that it's a gut response. And when I say that, I mean, if you go to the grocery store and you pick up one of those 400-pound wedding bridal magazines and you start flipping through it and you start to feel a sense of nausea.
Yes.
That's how you know you're an offbeat bride.
Okay, I think I felt that feeling once before. All right, so looking at you, you look like a lot of fun. You got some pink braids and everything. I want people to know exactly. You had hula hooping and what else at your rave music at your wedding?
Our wedding was really an expression of who my husband and I are, and I'm a big hula hooper. And when he and I met, we met at a rave 10 years ago. He was a DJ.
Okay.
And so it was a perfect fit that, of course, at our wedding reception, there would be loud, thumpy rave music. And so that was our reception.
Well, a lot of families, as I found and a lot of people have found, when you're going to weddings, you're preparing for weddings, your families, friends maybe sometimes expect certain things. What was your mother's response? Because mothers can usually be the pickiest.
You know, I think part of why I had a non-traditional wedding is because my mother raised me to be like her, and she's pretty non-traditional herself.
Oh, really?
So she was surprisingly supportive and even offered to host the reception at her house on Bainbridge Island, and really, she was really just great through the whole thing. I had no problems with anything.
Huge sigh of relief there for you, right? You got to be yourself. Tell us about Jen Moon, a Seattle bride.
Yeah, you know, in the course of researching the book and talking to over 50 brides across the country and even a few in the UK, I spoke to this amazing woman here in Seattle whose name is Jen Moon, and she and her husband are both theater people, and so their wedding, which was a perfect expression of them as theater folks, was called Wedding, the Musical. And it was a 40-minute long musical comedy review.
You're kidding. Did they sing?
They sang, they lip-synced, they danced. She was, instead of walking down the aisle, she was lowered in a red sequin dress on a trapeze from the ceiling.
Oh my goodness. What do you guys in the audience think of that? That's pretty wild. Hula hoop? Would you hula hoop at a wedding, first of all? Who does that? That is wild.
You know, hula hooping at a wedding, it was a really fun way. There's always going to be those guests who aren't quite comfortable dancing, especially when there's kind of weird music being played. And the hula hoops were a great way to get everyone involved and lighthearted and having fun. It was really great to see my mother-in-law and her partner hula hooping at the reception.
And you also have a story about a bride, a camping bride. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I spoke to a woman named Brittany who got married in West Virginia, and she had a weekend-long wedding that was basically a camp out, and people camped, and then some people stayed in some rustic little cabins. And she and her partner are big fans of jam band music, so kind of this rock, acoustic, folk music-y stuff, and so they ended up having as their reception several bands come in and play all night long out at this campground. And so they spent the day hanging out by the lake and going swimming, and then had the wedding, and then they had this all-night concert, basically, at these campgrounds.
And I thought I was wild. I wore some fluffy blue slippers in my wedding, but you guys are really going for it.
Yeah, you know, it's really all relative. One of the things I realized interviewing people for the book is that sometimes you think you're planning a really traditional wedding, but it's actually any little deviation can start to feel really weird really fast.
So what did you find? What have you learned preparing for a fun, wild wedding that reflects yourself? What are some tips?
You know, I think the biggest way that we made our wedding unique was by, instead of hiring a lot of vendors, we really tapped into our community to see who we had available to us who could help us.
And what about the W's? You tell us in your book not to use the W word.
Yeah, there's this strange phenomenon of anytime the word wedding gets attached to anything, whether it be chair rentals, cake cutting, anything, if there's the word wedding attached, it becomes twice as expensive.
Cha-ching.
And so as much as you can when you're shopping for the supplies you need for your wedding.
I'm preparing for a musical.
Right. I mean, call it a family reunion, call it whatever you need to, but as much as you can, avoid using the word wedding because you will save money.
Now, when you go to register for gifts, you can get all sorts of things, but you really need to be careful what you register for.
It's true, especially with people registering at places like Target, where it's a great place to register. They've got lots of housewares and stuff you need, but they've also got everything from laundry detergent to, as one couple found out, ho-hos. So they added as kind of a little joke, oh, we'll put some ho-hos on our registry. You know, those little Hostess cupcake things. And of course, then every single one of their guests thought it would be a great idea to get, oh, you know, we'll get them the plates, but then we'll also get them some ho-hos. And so they ended up getting a lot.
Yeah, I guess you don't need any wedding cake, right? Yum.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, definitely. So, and lastly, just tell us maybe a quick tip on changing your name or not changing it.
You know, this was really the hottest topic that I ran into when I was talking to, I called them my bridal lab rats, asking them questions about how they plan their weddings. And when I brought up changing your last name, it was really interesting to see how heated the discussions got on both sides of the fence. We're talking about, you know, progressive women who maybe there would be the assumption, oh, of course they'll keep their last name. And these women, many of them decided to assume their husband's last names for reasons like, it sounded better.
So it's really all about being yourself.
Yeah, it's really not about playing by any rules, whether those be traditional rules or untraditional rules. It's about making the decision for yourself.
Thanks so much, Ariel.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And we'll be right back.